Hi, I'm Mauro Di Gioia from ReedGeek, and I'm with a very good old friend of mine, Arun Luthra, New York Saxophonist Extraordinaire for many years. And we just got Arun ReedGeeking, and it's kind of the first thing he's asked me, what should I do, how should I use it? So we're going to do a very impromptu, free-flowing video.
Cool. So the first thing I want to check with you, Mauro, is, okay, so we've got this brand new box we just opened, right? And, okay, so we've got all these reeds here. How are you just going to pick one out of the box to start working on? Like, are you looking for anything specific in terms of...
Well, the first thing I'm looking for, and we've got a box of Rico Royal 3.5s.
Yeah.
We're not making any judgment of what. We might work with a 4. Arun told me I'm usually between a 3.5 and a 4. But again, like a lot of saxophone players, the 3.5 feels, blows easier initially, but then it does feel a little soft. Sometimes the 4s, they give me the support I want.
Right, exactly.
But then it ends up sometimes being a little stuffy.
And
so
I'm working too hard, that kind of, yeah.
Exactly. So the first thing I do on a reed is we take it right out of the box. We have the ReedGeek that you've seen in other videos. And the first thing I do, Arun, is I just go ahead. You can, for your own purpose, as we've showed, you can actually put it up on its edge here. And you can see, I'm not sure for yours, but that it's a little bit warped.
So it's a little like a convex,
yeah,
right?
A little bit convex. Sometimes it could be concave. But basically, the reed left the factory if they've sat in a music shop for a year. They've moved, and that is great. If the reed is breathing and it's moved, that's great. It's starting to settle and age and mature. So all I'm doing is just initially now, before it even sees water, I'm just letting the ReedGeek balance, and I'm just sliding it across it. What it's doing, it's just finding any of the high spots.
Yeah.
I'm going all the way to the tip. See, I can feel it, again with the touch, actually catching a little bit of the ridge on either side. It's now free-flowing here. I'm just dragging the tool. This is a no-pressure movement.
And the idea here is to just get it perfectly flat. From the butt all the way to the tip.
Yeah. At the same time, as you can feel this, look what has happened.
Yeah, it feels like really smooth.
So I've started to seal the pores, so when it does go in and see water, it's not just going to soak up like a sponge, and we know kind of where we're working from. So how I'm treating this reed right now, and people ask me, if I was at the factory, this is what a potential job could be if I wanted to make sure that every reed after it was aging came out and was flat. So all we're starting now is with a clean slate.
And you're not concerned at all when you take that reed out of the box about the symmetry of the cut or anything like that? You're not worried about that as a prime candidate for your...
Okay, well initially now, I will look not so much at the butt. This is pretty straight.
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about the symmetry, but I will hold it up and I will start to see, is there anything that is glaringly out of balance?
See, I'm seeing that the U shape down there is pretty asymmetrical on this one.
Yes, if you look, we have a heavy rail going up here.
Exactly, on the
and
left
it's
side.
going left side. But what we can go ahead and do is we can make a decision, do we want to adjust that? Now, I would say, why not just taking the ReedGeek, using different methods. Remember, you have your rail blades, your scraper radius, and of course all your edges. Initially right now, another method, and I haven't showed you, is you can just go ahead and drag until I'm laying the weight on its edge. Just kind of hit this down. And the reason why I'm doing this is I see it all the way up. So I'm just trying to get initial blend. I might just...
So you're saying to you it looks heavy all the way up?
Yeah, all the way up.
I'm going to adjust it, right?
And all we're doing right now is just doing this preliminary stuff on the reed. If I flex it, I do see a little heavy on this rail.
It feels heavy on the left side.
Yeah, just from flexing a little bit. And once again, at the factories, the difference between a 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5 is the density, the resiliency of this reed. So when they're testing it, there's actually a resiliency tester that's actually looking for resistance. It will bend. If it has a certain amount of resistance, it'll put it in 2.5.
Right.
If it's real resistance, it'll go in a 4.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's a thicker blank.
Right.
So we're dealing with thicker densities in firmer reeds. So this is where you choose, the thickness and density of the reed. Now move away anything else that you don't want on the reed to break it down. So, okay. So
and just in terms of just getting started, because see, my initial impulse would be, I'm looking at the reeds as I take them out of the box and I'm checking them for symmetry first before I even start on them, right? So I would say, oh man, this one's asymmetrical, put it down, find a symmetrical one, and then start working on it. But you don't think about that much?
Not as much. The first thing I'm looking at is flattening the reed, and then if it is a little asymmetrical like we just did, go ahead and take a little bit of that out. But depending on your mouthpiece, how your facing is. You can be tricked that sometimes the reed might be a little bit heavier on the left side.
Yeah.
Slightly maybe in the density, but the way your mouthpiece of chamber,
It might work, actually.
it might work, and you might want to sneak up on that more.
Yeah.
So this is your prerogative to decide how you want to do it. If you are a person saying, hey, I have a ReedGeek, I want that consistency, I know 90% of the time they play flat better. If I flatten them, if I go ahead and balance them initially,
Yeah.
then I'll treat that as my starting point.
Starting point, right.
That is perfectly valid.
Yeah.
And probably the best way to go. But it's however you got to work.
Right, exactly.
So why don't we just try this now out of the box. What do you normally do? I'll soak a reed. Sometimes there's a lot of different methods.
I've tried a lot of different things. And sometimes I'll just wet them with my saliva and play them, and then when I'm done, I'll put them in a reed holder in the case. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take the reed and leave it on the mouthpiece, but I'll put it down lower like this so that the mouthpiece cap doesn't press on the reed while it's in the case. And then for a little while I tried actually just keeping my reeds in water.
Okay.
So they're wet all the time.
Right, which a lot of people do.
And then you put a little like vodka or it could be like some mouthwash or something just to disinfect it so it doesn't get too funky. But at the end of the day, like I didn't see a huge benefit to that, so and it was too much trouble, so I stopped doing that.
Okay. So the thing I can't stress enough is getting and learning to use your ReedGeek, testing it, and making sure your reeds stay flat. If you do keep your reeds wet in water, when you do take them out, even wet, use the ReedGeek. You're going to see that they're going to start maybe warping a certain way because they've got to release the water. The fibers are going to come up. So you're in a consistent state, but you're still going to need to address it with the ReedGeek.
Right.
With this method, as he keeps playing, and it takes more water, again, the reed might start to swell again from where we starting with the starting point. Take it off, hit it later with the ReedGeek.
Right. I want to see how this reed feels to begin with on this mouthpiece. So right away it feels pretty good already, and I think the flattening you did that's why. You know what I mean? I might not have felt that good if you hadn't done anything to it first.
And the balance and the slight balancing that we did.
Yeah, and I guess we'll never know how it would have played before you did it, right? But I mean, it's pretty amazing. Like it feels good right now.
Well, good. And like you play this brand of reed, this strength of reed a lot, so you know basically how many you take out of the box.
Exactly. And so generally my struggle with the Rico Royals is, I'll play one and maybe my altissimo is really speaking, but it just is making me work hard, and it's just like I get tired and I'm fighting the reed a little bit. Or I'll have one that's just so beautiful and free-blowing vibrates, but then it pinches and the high notes aren't popping. But this one already we seem to have a pretty nice balance.
All right. Yeah, and I agree. We're getting a nice support.
So. I don't feel like I'm working too hard down there, but those high notes are still coming out.
But it still feels to me that we can even probably do, as we're settling, it could even get maybe a little bit more adjustment.
Yeah, so what are you hearing?
As you're playing, I just want to see if you can check our water pattern here. This is also a very important thing. We've got a static camera here, so it's going to be hard to see, but I'm going to explain it, is that his water pattern now is dry here.
Right, the butt is dry.
Dry. It has stopped the moisture right at the window where it should.
And there's actually a diagonal line. It's not a straight line across the reed. The moisture pattern is like diagonal.
Exactly. So what that's telling us is that there could be possibly a little bit of leakage here.
I see, right.
Yeah, but this is dry here, meaning that out of the box this reed was flat, and this is 90% why this reed is playing.
Right, it's because you flattened it.
Yeah, flattened it. You have a mouthpiece here that's been hand done. I think you said Jerry Bergonzi.
That's right, yeah.
Did this piece, and it's a nice piece. So we know that the variables. We have a flat table, a flat piece. We get this. Okay, we're having this, certain thing happening. So what I might do here, and I'm holding up the light, I see a little bit, just from you playing, a little bit of warpage. come in. So I'm just hitting again very lightly with the ReedGeek. And again, I'm going to just do a very small blend all the way, because I'm just kind of finishing my stroke off.
And now you're feeling the stiffness.
Yeah,
of the
stiffness.
edges.
And I can feel, once again, that we're still a little bit heavy on this
On
side.
the left side.
So I might come with my rail adjuster, work that
And
side.
what's interesting now is we're experimenting because, maybe this mouthpiece likes a stiffer rail on one side. And if it does, we'll see if that...
Exactly.
But on the other hand, maybe it'll make it play even better because now the mouthpiece likes something much more symmetrical.
Exactly.
So we're
Exactly.
discovering what the mouthpiece likes.
Exactly. So I'm not sure if I covered this in other videos, but this mouthpiece, whatever it may be, and this reed have to work together as a unit. Okay? They have to be almost a symmetrical mirror of itself.
Yeah.
Is that terminology is correct, that these have to work together. So actually, the way the facing curve and where the reed is flexing, where it's balancing, the more these work together as a unit, the better it's going to be.
Right.
And it's very logical, but a lot of people don't realize. When you have a mouthpiece, you keep changing your mouthpiece, you keep pulling a reed, you're putting two things, you're almost like throwing darts at a dartboard, blindfolded, and you're just looking for hopefully something that's going to start working together as a system.
Well, the way you were explaining it to me is like, it's like you're customizing the reed to your mouthpiece.
Exactly.
That's really
Exactly.
what it's about.
And you're always going to have variances in cane quality, cane cut. So, there's never going to be 100% that every reed you do one thing to is always going to work. So you have variable. But what you'll realize, just like practicing, studying, if you do one thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you
Now
start to learn what works on your piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
And your setup.
Okay.
So you've evened out now the thickness of the tips.
Yep.
And then you've also balanced out the rails and you flattened out the tips.
Oh yeah, just a little bit more.
And it's also interesting to note that in this room, in this climate, the reeds are drying out very, very fast. You commented on that.
Yeah, and I've noticed that. And we're out in Astoria.
That's right. We're in New York City. We're pretty much at sea level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the weather's still kind of cold.
Yes.
So the moisture, the humidity is pretty low.
Yeah, and I'm very surprised how quick the reeds are drying out here. I live up more in the high desert in Nevada, so I know I'm dry and I have altitude, and I'm surprised that even here.
So you're saying it's comparable here to what you experienced?
Besides the altitude differences, which
Right.
also are going to have an effect on reeds.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, let's see what we got. So that's interesting that it feels very similar, but actually maybe a little bit more resistant now than it did before. Which is kind of the opposite of what you'd expect, right?
Yes.
And that could be because of the idiosyncrasies of this mouthpiece.
Yes.
Possibly, right?
Possibly, but also as we've now flattened it a little bit further and created created more of a seal here. You're actually, the energy now is going more into your chamber, your mouthpiece.
Right.
And you're not getting any sense of a blow-by or leakage here, so more of the energy now is getting into the heart of the reed.
Right.
So you're feeling that. You're also feeling, as we balancing the tip, once again, as things start working, the energy starts going into your chamber, so you're getting more support overall.
Right. Yeah. And then, just looking at the moisture line, which you guys can't see on the video, is that it seems much more straight, even though I kind of, messed it up because I lit the reed right away, but...
Now, is there anything else, or this would be something now you might want to leave and just work with, or?
Well, I would be interested to see if now, looking at the cut of the reed, it's pretty asymmetrical. Like, it's pretty far off, actually.
Yeah.
Right? The U shape in there.
Yeah, and what he's explaining here in the U shape is generally the shoulders of the reed. If you look, the shoulder on this side of the reed is coming down much more naturally. This one is actually a little higher.
Yeah, it's going way up there,
way
up the rail.
So what we're going to do is, and once again, your high notes intuitively are going to start up at the tip of the reed. Your low notes, as you get, are going to come to the back of the reed.
Yeah.
So I noticed there was a little bit and you're sitting down, but there might have been a little bit of a glitch going down to the lower range.
Yeah, right.
And that very well is indicative of those shoulders.
It's definitely not the most beautifully free-blowing reed I've ever played. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So one thing that, for us right now is like, well, do we want to keep working on this one, or do we want to try to find one that's symmetrical to begin with and then start working on
Well,
that?
I think since we have this, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to go with the ReedGeek. And I'm just profiling, just working a little bit on that shoulder. And the one great thing about the Geek here is that you don't have to sharpen it. You know it's straight. So all those variables you don't have to worry about. And you can just do it as small amounts without gouging the cane as needed.
Yeah.
And you'll start to find different strokes. I've said on other videos, you can approach it this way in our instructions, and this is all true. I will tend to just, where I feel at the moment, how I'm going to go ahead and make a small adjustment.
Yeah. So right now what we're really checking out is if it starts to feel more free-blowing in terms of being able to just let me pop out those low notes in a relaxed way, not having to drop my jaw or really push hard or whatever.
Yeah, and overall, the balance of the reed.
Yeah. So that definitely feels better.
Yeah,
Like
I
it
can hear.
really feels better. That it's just I feel an ease of playing now. That I
Yeah.
can go down and not have to really feel like I'm pushing.
And have that step.
Yeah. So it feels pretty good, right?
Yeah.
There's still a bit of that stuffiness, I don't know if that's the right word, but it could be a little bit more free-blowing, and then, those altissimo notes are coming out, but again, we're getting these super subtle things about, is there something you could do to make them pop even more without making the reed feel more resistant, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so you're feeling it more. Again, I'm going to take the reed. And for video's sake here, how are we looking on the work?
It's much better. It's still slightly diagonal, but a lot less than it was.
Okay, so once again, and this is a question I get a lot, how much should I use the ReedGeek? Should I come back? Now, Arun, as we started on the video, did not soak the reed. It wasn't taking up any moisture. So it's now taking moisture. As we've sealed the pores, it's obviously taking a lot less. But once again, it's moving. So with the ReedGeek, we can go ahead and just keep sneaking up on it.
Right.
I'm starting initially at that window, blending all the way up.
Right.
For myself, I'll turn the reed the other way now, and I'll just kind of go off and blend it ever so slightly here. You could, again, holding it up to the light, you'll start to develop a feel for this. You can actually feel when it's flat, but I just wanted to visually see. Yeah, it's very much, we're right there. It might be a slight, I'm just going to, right there at the window. So he was saying, as I'm looking at this piece of cane, I can also start to look at how the heart is. On either side, the left and right side of your heart, and we talked about in some instructions, the ears of the reed. These areas have to balance and be almost like an airplane wing, be very much in balance, very much symmetrical. Once those are in balance, you want this balance to kind of fan into the tip. If you have a lot of heavy cane on either side, that's going to give you some of that stuffiness up to the tip of your mouthpiece. Where that break is, near the tip rail, and it's going to tend to be thick and kind of thuggy.
Yeah.
So the idea is to get in here, and I can also see there's some, so on that area I can see there's some more density on that left side, on the right side going down. So I'm going to just kind of fan this in, and we'll, on another video, I will do some more close-ups, and as we go here, talk about, you can start to see what I'm doing here. But conceptually, I'm just working the left hand and right hand side of the reed for people who already work a lot on their reeds, let's say with a reed knife.
And so you're doing both, like you're feeling the thickness by testing it, and you're also looking
Visually
visual and tactile.
Exactly, because sometimes you can be a little bit tricked where you might have a lot of pithy area there, and you're like, obviously that's lighter, but it might be just a little bit in the reel that it might actually feel stiffer because of the reel.
But they actually feel very soft.
And you can also now push a little bit going the other way too. Yeah.
Pushing that way, I see. Yeah, actually, I feel a little bit more resistant pushing towards the mouthpiece and away from it.
Yeah, and you don't want to do this excessively where you're breaking, but you're just getting a sense.
Right.
And did it feel fairly close?
It did, yeah.
Either way.
But then again, you're saying like, as you work with this, you might find out that your mouthpiece likes it one way or another, and then you start to learn that. Yeah.
Yeah, and as we're taking the reed off, generally, most of the time, and Arun might start doing this also, is I will make sometimes very slight adjustments to the top side right on the mouthpiece. So I'm balancing it on the facing, on the mouthpiece, and creating the symmetry that we want.
Because you were saying once you found a reed that's really working, you don't really want to take it off the mouthpiece.
Exactly.
You just want to leave it there. Yeah.
Just like a double reed, you're putting these two things together and you want them to work. The minute you move them, you've now changed the position a little bit.
So I'm very struck right away about how much more easy blowing it is now. Like it's just, oh man, it just feels like I don't have to work, I can just get my sound, and I'm not blowing hard. I mean, I can really feel that. Maybe you can hear it too.
Yeah, it's very stable and supportive.
But those high notes are still popping.
Yep.
And that's always the struggle, right? As you think like, oh, if the low notes are easy, then the reed is going to pinch and you're not going to get those high notes.
Exactly, and I can almost feel that they're almost clear. They're slotting better, as a trumpet player would refer to as slotting.
Yeah, right.
Are you feeling that?
Well, yeah, it's just, I'm able to do them.
Yeah.
And the reed, I don't feel like the reed's fighting me, or I'm having to work extra hard to pull them out of the reed. Like, come on, baby, make this note come out.
Yeah.
It's just happening, It's really remarkable.
Yeah, I'm hearing it. So I would say that I would not touch any more of that reed. You're ready to go. It sounded nice, man.
And just for my own benefit, like like recapping, right?
Yeah.
Like flattening out that table so that it's really flat against the piece, and then evening out the rails because the cut was asymmetrical, and then you've got really light wings at the tip, but a nice solid heart down there.
Yeah, so you're creating the energy to come right at the tip of the reed of the mouthpiece. It's getting a nice flow, and boom, it's hitting that heart, getting into your chamber, which again is acting like a carburetor in a car, and boom, the energy is going, you're relaxed. It's all about the whole system working together.
Right on.
All right, everybody, thanks very much. Thank you very much.
See you, everybody.